Cameroon. As you know, there has been internet blackout all over the 2 regions of southern Cameroon, comprised of over 7 million citizens. With this internet blackout, we've got no clue what's happening, but we do know that people are being killed and that a lot of people have been arrested and taken to Yaoundé, to jails.
So let's bring our viewers up to speed with exactly what this protest was about. Yes. In Cameroon, you have the Anglophone part, and then you have the Francophone part. Yes. The Francophone being the majority of the region in Cameroon, and the Anglophone feels that they are being marginalized. That is the crux of the issue, right?
There is a problem of marginalization, but it is all systematic. It falls into a pattern of not just marginalization around opportunities, but also marginalization in terms of the resources. And for me, it is symptomatic of a systematic problem that's linked to colonialism. You may be aware that Cameroon makes up one of the 15 countries that have signed an accord, an agreement with France, that the majority of their resources would be handed over to France or are being controlled by France. And this includes the oil that is being tapped from these 2 regions, from one of these 2 regions in southern Cameroon, where there has been no accountability. We've got no idea how much is coming out of this region.
Right. Once again, the reason that you have, the English-speaking part and the French-speaking part obviously comes from your colonial history.
It is.
That is where it all began. And since then, there hasn't been, proper integration between the 2 parts. And this is why we're having this problem. Yes.
Well, integration being one of them. Again, I wouldn't say it's the failure to integrate. It's the deliberate.
Okay.
It's the deliberate, systematic implementation of a system that says there's going to be no integration, but where there will be exploitation. And as I speak, I have to point out, the exploitation is not only against these 2 regions, but the 2 regions bear the brunt of it. They constitute 20% of the population, contribute 60% of the country's wealth, but enjoy very little of that wealth. So it's systematic. It's not the failure. It's not the attempt to try.
There's no political will at all. This is what you're saying.
There is a deliberate political will not to make it happen.
Right. In other words. So what do you want to see happen going forward? Because you have a rare situation, mostly in Africa. We have issues of tribalism.
Yes.
You have a unique situation in Cameroon where you have, issues of different languages coming from your colonial masters, so to speak.
Well, tribalism is part of it, but we don't want to go to be that petty. Yes, there is a colonial legacy that is at play, and I think what we want to see out of this is to go back. The community, we keep talking about restoration. The United Nations has got a responsibility, and that responsibility is that which said that southern Cameroonians at independence were not given the choice to be independent, but rather were given the choice of either joining Nigeria or French Cameroon. Now, out of this union to get together between French Cameroon and English Cameroon, or English-speaking Cameroon, was the agreement that there was a federal system in which every region would be autonomous. Now, and there was a clause that clearly stated that under no circumstance should this relationship be broken. That has been deliberately broken. And the plight of the majority, at this moment, the plight of the majority of southern Cameroonians is that they don't even want to be part of this relationship anymore.
Okay.
They want completely out.
That's the protest that we're seeing even back in Cameroon. I understand even schools are closed, so this is affecting children as well.
Well, everybody's affected. Schools are closed.
Internet is shut down.
Internet has been shut down by the government in complicity with a number of internet provider companies. So it affects everybody. And over and above that is the worry that while there is no internet access to these 2 regions, people are dying, people are being killed. The number have died today. Soldiers have broken into dormitories and raped children, young schoolgirls as young as 17 and 16. So there is a lot that's happening. And we think that there is a responsibility for everybody. But the protest in front of the United Nations building today was because the United Nations never gave this territory the chance.
Do you think the United Nations is indifferent about this issue, or they are deliberately ignoring this issue?
Well, the difficulty sometimes is to admit that you made a mistake at some point, and perhaps that's the difficulty that the United Nations is sitting with. What we are doing as a community is now bringing it to the attention of the United Nations to say, here is a problem that you created 55 years ago. You have to resolve it.
Deal with it.
Yes.
I'm just looking at Twitter here. President Paul Biya has just tweeted that he will address the youth of Cameroon in about 15 minutes. I'm assuming perhaps he's started now.
Yes.
Obviously, he's paying attention to this issue. What do you think he will say in his speech? I'm sure he's already started now.
Well, Cameroon happens, let me start by saying Cameroon happens to be one of the, perhaps the only country that refuses to celebrate its day of independence. So the 11th of February, which is tomorrow, is actually the day we celebrate our colonialism.
I'm not sure how many people will see this tweet if he has blocked the internet, even though he's just tweeted that he will address people.
Well, it's selective. This is a regime that invests a lot of money, millions of dollars every year to make sure, in New York and the capitals of the world, to make sure that the world doesn't know what is going on in Cameroon. So when he tweets, there are certain people that he is trying to access. But back to your question about the 11th of February, which is tomorrow.
Yes.
And his speech, we know it's drama. He's been doing it for the past 35 years. He will do it once again. But what is important is because there has been the will of the people that have come together, 10 million people, and saying, we're not going to be part of this drama anymore. Children not going to school. The markets is a ghost town in all the towns. What they are doing, and you may see it through Mr. Biya's actions, is that they are now ferrying children and students from other parts of the country to go and march in these areas where there are ghost towns. So whatever he does, we know, in spite of the internet blackout, the message still goes out that Mr. Biya is playing games. And we've lived with his games for so long that we are always 2 steps ahead.
What role does France play in this whole debacle?
France is basically the root of the debacle. Like I mentioned, Mr. Biya is a stooge of French interests. Back to the oil and this union between the two. A lot of people have argued that this is a political matter. Back to what you were asking, is it the lack of political will? And I said it's a deliberate policy. And it's a policy that was put into place in order to protect French interests. And what is French interest? This is a country that is rich in timber, the 4th highest producer of cocoa in the world. Yes. We produce oil. Where does all this go to if you still have children who go to school barefooted? There are no classrooms because Mr. Biya is a representative of French interests. Right. And what the French are doing, apart from providing the arms that the soldiers go and kill and maim and rape children, is the fact that they are 2,800 people were killed by Mr. Biya, over 500 arrested, or over 1,000 arrested, nothing went out. The French are aware. The only reason it doesn't go out is because Mr. Biya is there to protect their interests. And so back to the root of the problem, Southern Cameroon and the rest of Cameroon, there is no problem between the average Southern Cameroonian and the average Cameroonian, every other Cameroonian. The only problem is that the French have instituted a system that says that they will be in control of everything. And part of that system is the education we get. We have a curriculum that is being designed in France. And to say, we're going to train you to think in a particular manner. We have, our money is being minted in France. Our flag is being determined from France. So basically everything that Mr. Biya represents is a representation of French interests.
So who else is backing your cause? Are there any opposition, maybe politicians, that are working with you to make sure that your plight is not just is heard, but are fighting for this freedom and emancipation from this French colonial, neo-colonialism that's happening in Cameroon, that as you claim?
Well, we are embarking on a number of actions to begin to let the several governments, both in Africa and beyond, to understand the situation. The understanding has always been there, and perhaps what has been lacking is the effort on our part, both diplomatically and otherwise, to make sure that these governments come on board. So yes, there are quite a few leaders who are coming on board. They are beginning to understand the situation better, and in fact, some of them have said, we understood the situation all along. We have been waiting for you to bring it to us.
Oh, wow. There you have it. Thank you so much for your time and bringing this plight in Cameroon to light on Africa Tonight. We certainly appreciate it. Spokesperson for Cameroon SA Forum, that's Mr. Milan Atam there.